Yeah, so my name's Aaron. I am 32 and I have just finished my PhD on the lived experience of narcolepsy in Australia. Well, when I was younger, I had really good sleep. I did a lot of sport. Didn't have any problems with sleep or didn't think about my sleep quality until, about late or early 20s. I went over to Europe on a Contiki tour. I had a really bad flu over there. And then when I came back, I just started feeling really, really sleepy throughout the day. I'd go to lectures at university and I would fall asleep mid-lecture no matter what I would do. And I'd end up with a whole page of notes that would just ended up being scribbles. It's a bit of at the time I didn't know what was wrong or what was really happening. And I guess the main thing that kind of, signified that there was a problem was cataplexy. I remember the first time that I had cataplexy was I was crossing the road at university and the light turned red. And I kind of panicked a little bit and my legs just gave way and my laptop and books, kind of went flying. So cataplexy is, a symptom of narcolepsy, where anytime that you experience normally a positive emotion, for me, it's whenever I tell a joke or I laugh, or I anticipate telling a joke with friends, normally my muscles will give way. So normally it can end up with a full paralysis on the floor for 2 minutes if it's, a bad attack. And at the time, it took a simple Google, type into Dr. Google asking, why do I collapse every time that I laugh or something like that? First thing that came up was narcolepsy. So that kind of, at least put me on the path of what, it could be or likely was. Yeah, so I assessed the thought of having narcolepsy as something that I guess was transient, that, you'd be able to take medication and then, you'd fix it. It didn't cross my mind that, 12, 13 years later, I'd, still be dealing with it. But I guess that's the same as anyone who, has any kind of chronic illness or change in their health. Yeah, so the first discussion that I had with my first sleep physician, it was quite clear-cut. I just described, I was having problems with sleep, sleepiness. The cataplexy was probably the main indicator. Straight away he kind of put me on the wait list for a sleep study. My sleep at the time was fragmented. I would wake up 10, 15 times a night and essentially never felt rested. So I guess that was one of the main things that I found difficult, at the time, never feeling rested. I started to fall asleep while driving, and that was another red flag that I brought to my GP and then sleep physician. It was, I think the equivalence that people give is that if a regular person stays awake for 72 hours or 48 to 72 hours, that's kind of how it feels like to have narcolepsy. So I was diagnosed when I was 19, 20. But I saw a lot of sleep physicians during that time. And the medications that were available were pretty substandard. That's when my mental health really started to be affected. And I knew that I had to find another option or find another kind of medication or treatment plan because, it got pretty bad. I learned that there's a medication or different medications available overseas. There's a few. For myself, I found that Xyrem or sodium oxybate was a life changer. I've been on that for now 5, 6 years. And without it, I doubt that I would be able to have finished my PhD or get to where I am at the moment. I find for myself, low carb diet, or, just watching carbohydrate intake, low sugar foods as well, is a big thing. I find that whenever I have a sugary meal or, something really sweet, I feel sleepy for the rest of the day. I think it's important to realize that there's a lot of stigma around sleepiness, especially in the workplace, at school, things like that. And I think that it's important for people with narcolepsy or excessive daytime sleepiness in general to realize that it's okay to ask for help, and it's a legitimate medical condition as well. I personally think that the reason that sleep is undervalued, at least in Australia, is because there's no dedicated, sleep field. It's not interdisciplinary. We don't have, a large number of psychologists, psychiatrists, neurologists who are trained in sleep. And it's mainly just sleep and respiratory education being joined together. I think it's important that, sleep is seen as its own field, and given, how important it is for everyday life, for the future, for people with narcolepsy. There's a lot more medications that are coming out, a lot more specific treatment, and a lot more research being done on the condition. So I think that, for the future, it's there's a lot to be hopeful for. Yeah, so I think it comes down to yourself driving it a lot. Everyone needs to be able to self-advocate for themselves, but that's not, an ideal situation for someone who may not be as health literate or know the pathways or what to ask for. So I think that there still is a lot to be done around education, around getting information out there, and just raising general awareness about narcolepsy.